So you're invested or looking to invest in HBAR and Quant, and you're wondering to yourself, every single YouTuber talks about these two projects. They always tell me how bullish they are and how many multiples they're going to go up and this is all happening in the team and oh my God, the technology. Settle the noise. Which one is actually a better investment for you in 2025? Now, I'm guessing 99% of us are in the market to make money. Now, if you're like me, you love the tech, but of course, you also want to make money. That's a part of being a human. Unfortunately, greed powers most things in life. So in today's video, we're going to compare these two projects and figure out which one has more potential to grow in specifically 2025. Now, I think both of these projects are fantastic. They're actually my number one and number two holdings. So I want to make that very clear to everyone right off the rip. So buckle yourselves in, guys, and let's get started. Now, most importantly, we really need to know why we're comparing these two projects. And I think that I've summarized it up pretty well here. Ultimately, they're both businesses first. You can forget crypto. Imagine these projects on the stock market and having to invest in their stock rather than having to invest or buy a utility token, which is what they are. Utility tokens, which means that you can use the tokens on the network, but obviously crypto bros have turned it into hodl. Okay, so let's figure out why we should really compare these two and why they are comparable in the first place. Number one, they're a 2030 plus solution. And this is actually a breath of fresh air. This is going to be a little bit relaxing to know, because ultimately, if we make a mistake in 2025, right, if we just, I don't know, something happens, we're in hospital, we're in a coma, God forbid, something happens where ultimately we make a mistake or we miss out on the 25 bull market, we will have a chance in 2030 plus, because these projects will actually perform a lot better in that time because they will be adopted. There should be some clarity, regulations in place. And obviously, the longer a project is or a company is in a market, the stronger it gets and the more aligned it is or reliable it is. So let's talk about some of these solutions. So both networks are future-proof thanks to their design and target markets. Very important, the target markets. Now, these markets are set to find mass adoption, as I said, by 2030 plus. Also, let's talk about the teams. Now, the teams are extremely talented with founders that are well-versed in their specific niche with some of the best connections in the entire world. And it's just facts. That's one of the reasons that make these projects so good, is because, again, just like I like to complain about general purpose blockchains that say they do everything, sometimes that is not a good thing, okay? Oftentimes, we need to look at a project that is going to be looking at a specific niche, because obviously, jack of all trades, you know, you're not good at any single one thing, but if you focus on one specific thing, you can obviously obtain more of the market share. But I love both of these projects for that reason. You can argue Hedera fits into that jack of all trades, but I actually say the hash graph opens up new doors in specific niches. Let's continue. They are both extremely unique. So Quant, for starters, is connecting the world in ways we have just simply never seen before or has ever been done before, period. Now, Hedera offers a one-of-a-kind DLT that beats blockchain and DAGs, which are just other types of distributed ledger technologies, which is what a blockchain is. And also their governing council, which I believe single-handedly makes this project fantastic alone. Okay, so we're going to talk about why these different value propositions actually play a part into what makes them bullish for 2025, and we'll tie into the price predictions in just a moment. Lastly, they have amazing connections, as I spoke about in the team, right? Both networks have connections with major multinational enterprises and even governments, and they're two of the biggest lineups in the entire crypto market. Suffice to say, guys, we're dealing with two of the absolute giants. Matter of fact, they're sleeping giants right now, okay? They're like America when Japan invaded Pearl Harbor. They're about to explode, okay? And we're poking the bear so much right now, and things are starting to ramp up, so I'm really excited to see. Ultimately, I'm going to be 100% transparent with you guys. I am more bullish on the 2029, 2030 plus vision for these projects, because there are some recent events that have come out that supports this, but ultimately, I think, just like any utility token, there's going to be retail speculation in 2025 that will help us gain that momentum for the subsequent years. Now, this is why ultimately, both projects, I believe, are going to outperform the market, okay? Outperform the market in the sense that they're going to do better than the general market in the coming bull markets. Now, this is their market dominance charts, okay? Quant and obviously Hedera. And as we can see, they're not exactly to scale. We'll show the to scale in a second, but they've broken out, right? You can see here, this is what they were pretty much back in their 2021/2022 bull market phase. And they've broken up quite a significant amount from when it was before that, which means people are more interested in the projects. They've gained more of a market fit in the crypto market specifically, okay? So this is a bit of an indication with me that they might actually perform really well and actually exceed the market expectations of it, okay? So they are also very similar, and we'll talk about why again, because they've broken out of their, main, what they were before at least, right, in 2021, okay? And I believe they obviously will both continue performing this well into 2025 and beyond. So why do we look at market dominance? Well, this is going to help us figure out a price, as I said, in just a minute. And ultimately, market dominance compares the market cap of a project versus the entire market. Okay, so I always speak about this in most of my videos, guys, but ultimately when a project when its dominance is going up, it doesn't just mean the market cap's going up. It also means that it's beating the current market. Now, this can be things like news or events or specific narratives popping off, but ultimately it is always a good thing to see it going up, okay? Specifically when it's steady, like we have seen with these two projects. Now, as we can see here, the previous bull market topped out at about $3 trillion, and that was primarily retail curiosity. People like you and I, wasn't really institutions, or at least very many institutions. And at that, if there were institutions, the demand from the institution using the network or networks wasn't being adequately used. It's still speculative, okay? Now, I believe it will 3x from that point in time, going to about a $10 trillion global market cap, because we will see more institutional and even national demand. And again, I think this is just going to go parabolic in the subsequent years, 2030 I'm talking here and beyond. But ultimately, guys, it's going to be between 5 to 10 trillion, I strongly believe. I actually think probably more specifically 7 to 10, which means we can take that market dominance score percentage and actually use that against that $10 trillion to roughly figure out what the market cap will be. Now, it's not going to be exact. I'm going to use some supporting evidence to push it up a little bit more, okay, what these projects are specifically doing. Allow me to interrupt this program very briefly. If you are enjoying this video, I would applaud you to please hit the like button, and if you really feel like it, hitting subscribe for more of this type of content. A lot of work goes into these videos, and I would really appreciate. All right, back to the video. Now, this is the 2-scale chart. This is the last couple years, and this is, again, market dominance, but this is QNT's dominance in white against HBAR's dominance in pink. Now, you'll notice I actually pointed out the 2021/2022 bull market here, the start and the ending of it, or thereabouts, okay? And as we can see here, Hedera actually topped out at about 0.25%. But you'll also notice, following the pink line here, it actually propped up almost to that same number. It was about 0.2% or 0.21%, okay? So that's a very good sign, because that's past the bull market. That's in 2023 phase, okay? So yes, this does mean that there's a lot more interest in the project. Now, we look at Quant over here, and Quant actually did a little bit differently, okay? It did have a nice little peak over here. It was just under 0.2% in the bull market, but actually it performed a lot better even against HBAR at 0.26%. in sort of late 2022, early this year, okay? So ultimately, who's winning the race right now? Well, QNT actually isn't. This is slightly off center. I have to slightly move this, but ultimately QNT's dominance right now is about 0.12%, and HBAR's dominance is about 0.14%. Let's move on. Ultimately, what is it really telling us so far? Well, they've both broken away in terms of their dominance. They're both on track to obviously do better. If we continue at this rate, they should ultimately go up. What I'm going to expect is to maybe even 1 or 2% of the total market dominance, okay? Now, why? Why would I say it's such a bullish thing, okay? Because we're still talking about a 10x in market dominance from the current or the previous all-time high caps. And what I'm going to say to you is, because the markets and the value capture here is extraordinary, and what you'd like to see from such networks. The foundation typically should have mechanisms or transaction fees and things like that that absorb all the usage on the network effectively. If it doesn't do it effectively, it's not going to go up in price from actually using the network. Chainlink is a little bit of an example in this case, okay? So Hedera, what are they? What is their market? Well, it's a public/private blockchain, and they also offer blockchain as a service as well. Ultimately, they do capture value extremely well at all levels, and I made a recent video on Algorand versus HBAR talking about this in a lot more depth. I'll leave that at the top right-hand corner of your screen. So the enterprise market itself, this is like the business side of things, okay? This is their like sort of private instances that can leverage the public network. It's expected to go from $18 billion from this year to about $470 billion in 2023. Now, that's many, many multiples, and you might be thinking to yourself, Kyron, surely the enterprise market was larger than that. I believe it was. The source I use is just specifically looking at North America And I think that depending on their sources, very reputable source, I think depending on where they found some of their sources, it actually diminished some of that return. Ultimately, we're looking at the multiples here, and remember, this is just the US, okay? So there's a lot more to grow here worldwide, all right? And it's only going to get more and more and more. Again, this is just a prediction as well, okay? Now, Web3 market, well, this is the public side of things. This is dApps, DEXs, anything it might be on the public Hedera network that you and I can easily use. 2021, it was about 2 billion. Now, we all know that was completely wrong, right? It was about 2 to 3 trillion in 2021, as I showed you moments ago, but it is expected to absolutely swell by 2030. Again, we're looking for multiples here, guys. I don't know what sources this company specifically used, but suffice to say, they got something wrong. But I'm looking at this more so as an indication that they are expecting, whatever it might be, 40% year-on-year growth, which is my indication that we're going to see more involvement in that 2025/2030 rather bull market. Okay, so as I said, fantastic value absorption over here for Hedera. Any sort of network that instance on the network, private, public, blockchain as a service, whatever it might be, needs the HBAR token. Beautiful. Over here, the value prop, the hash graph itself, okay, we have to consider this, supports widespread adoption in these markets, naturally, because it stands out from the crowd. There's only one hash graph in the entire world. Actually, it works better than DAGs and blockchains. So when you look at that and you look at all the options you have, and a company has at choosing different networks, right? You have this fantastic hash graph that you can choose from, highly flexible, all the bells and whistles, and you have all the blockchain variations and all the DAG variations. Aren't you going to go, let's look into this hash graph a little bit more? That's my point. Let's move into Quant over here. So they're interoperable. More specifically, they focus on interoperability, and they also have a public and private business side of things because the maps or multi-chain applications, they're pretty much analogous to your dApps, except they can be built on top of the Overledger, which is Quant Network's operating system that has all the different networks running through it, and they can connect to any network they so wish, which is very powerful, unlike anything we've seen before, in combination with the highly flexible nature of the Overledger system. So the interesting thing about this is the interoperability market is so far unquantifiable. I mean, it's pretty much, as I mentioned over here, it's as large as the global economy. It's anything and everything that is being transferred around the internet, because Quant can connect to any API business service online. It can connect to private servers, legacy networks like siloed banks, for example, that run their own private networks. It can connect to anything enterprise. It can connect to Hedera, whatever it may be, okay, which is fantastic. So ultimately, guys, it's just trillions of dollars. And actually, it's interesting because Quant has been working with the Bank of International Settlements, which is like the international central bank of all central banks, right? So about 65 central banks under its wing, and they've been recently working with the UK government. Yes, the UK government. And more specifically, I'm talking about the Bank of England here. So you can imagine being leveraged in an entire economy, okay? So as I said, amazing token absorption at all levels, just like Hedera. And actually, there's little to no competition for Quant at all, believe that or not. So yes, lots of upside. Now, the highly interoperable nature of the Overledger system is supported by the white label option that makes Quant an extremely attractive network for countries, removing the fear of a public network. What do I mean by this? Well, essentially, no central bank is going to want to publicize a public ledger when they bring CBDCs in, and they will bring CBDCs in. And ultimately, they wouldn't want a public ledger everyone could see, okay? They want a private instance that they can track that brings in all the data from the economy. And Quant is pretty much going to be the middleman that allows that, right? And also, it's a white label service. So essentially, brands, companies, governments can leverage the Overledger network and don't have to tell anyone they're leveraging it. Matter of fact, they can actually say to people, hey, this is our network. This is what we're doing. Okay, this is our systems. As long as they pay the licensing fee, which will be absorbed by the token, they can go ahead and do whatever they want with it, which is awesome. But it's great to see that Quant, the QNT token, will still capture that value, which is why both of these projects, in my opinion, is a 10 out of 10. Simple as that. So how do we know which is more profitable? Well, what we're going to do is compare the markets and ensure that they can absorb the demand, which we have. Tick, tick, tick. Next is going to check the tokenomics for a supply shock potential. But what we're not going to do, and what people do at least most people do in the market, is guess which is better based on a general consensus. They might watch 10 videos, most of the time from YouTubers that don't know what the F they're talking about, and go, okay, the general consensus, 9 out of 10 say it's good. So it must be good. I've been there, I've done that, and that's what actually made me a little bit more proactive in starting the channel and learning more about crypto. So don't do that. We're going to look at some of the stats, okay? And we're also not going to predict the price based on current circulating supply, because we will be shocked if more tokens come into circulation. So let's get into the token vesting and also a potential supply shock if there is one. Starting off with HBAR, let's just run through this nice and quick. The 2025 circulating supply for this bad boy, it's going to be impossible to tell because they're a business, and the way they actually structure their vesting is year to year, okay, or quarterly. So we don't really know for sure, but based on historic unlocks, it's about 10%, give or take, year on year, which means we can kind of estimate roughly in 2025, there'll be about 36.3 billion tokens in circulation. Now, what do I mean by third parties down here and how much do they control of the token? Well, third parties are the team, investors, any investment round, large community rounds, for example, and also, obviously investors, venture capitalists, also advisors. So HBAR, from what I've been able to find, has about 43.39% in the hands of all these guys, which actually isn't too bad considering this is a lot of people. So that actually isn't too bad at all. We typically see over 50% in this instance. Now, this brings me to Quant Network, right? So right now, the circulating supply for Quant is about 12 million tokens, has been for a while now. However, we can work off the worst case, as we don't actually know for 100% sure how many tokens will be in circulation in 2025. Now, I doubt there will be the max supply, which is about 14.881 million tokens. I doubt it. But again, we should work off worst case here because Quant has scrubbed all the vesting and tokenomic details from the internet, so no one really knows for sure, okay? Now, third-party control in this case is about 60%, but again, I couldn't confirm this. I had to go into many hoops to find out possibly what it could be. I'm pretty firm on that, but again, I might be slightly off here. Again, this is 60% is typically what we see with most networks out there. So guys, when we're looking at a potential supply shock here, you got to look at the amount of tokens being entered into circulation, because if demand is at a same or even more of an increase in rate, and you have no more tokens coming into circulation or a very slow drip of tokens, that means that the price will shoot up dramatically. If you have an influx like we see with countries that go through hyperinflation, if there's a lot of tokens or fiat entered into circulation very rapidly, it will dilute the token or dilute the fiat currency, okay? In this case, Hedera, in my opinion, that's not too bad. There's a fixed supply of tokens. There will only be 50 billion tokens ever in existence, but that won't happen in 2025, whereas Quant will definitely have the advantage here because there's a very small amount of tokens, even if they did all go into circulation. So what is my 2025 price prediction? Well, for Quant Network, I believe it'll minimum go to about $1,600 at a 25 billion market cap, okay? And from the current price of about $110, that'll 15x. Over here for HBAR, I'm going to say a minimum of 69 cents, no one laugh down below, at about a 25 billion market cap, which is about a 14x at the current price of about 5 cents. Now, matter of fact, I actually gave Quant a higher minimum here, but the reason I reduced it and gave an even 25 billion each is because I wanted to prove to you guys, hey, look at the multiples here. Slightly higher for Quant Network, and I understand it's all to do with the current price, of course. But you can see why a bit of a supply shock actually helps it out here, because obviously to find this, I have to get the market cap and divide it by the circulating supply, okay? So yes, less tokens, less in circulation over a period of time, it definitely does help. Now the max, I see, and when I say max, I want to just, for everyone down below, before you get your knickers in or not, this is like the very best case situation. I'm guessing it's going to go anywhere between this, and we don't know what's going to actually happen in future. This is very much non-financial advice, okay? It's my predictions. I'm going to say 150 bill market cap for Quant Network, putting, again, the price at $10,000, therefore 91xing from today's price. And HBAR, I'm going to say $5.50, and it's going to 110x. Now, you might say to yourself, well, obviously, HBAR wins this, right? But remember, this is a 200 billion market cap opposed to 150 billion. If I made this 200 billion for argument's sake, Quant would have a higher return on investment. So I want to make you guys very aware. This is because the reason why Hedera has ranked more is because I believe Hedera will be better utilized in the coming years, in 2025, than Quant Network. And that's all I'm going to say on that. I do think both of these projects are going to have lots of success in 2030 plus, and ultimately I do think possibly Quant Network is going to actually provide much more better multiples in, as I said, 2030 plus, because they could actually be working with governments and they pretty much own most of the potential market share. But it is kind of competitive in that sense because there are very small, nuanced interoperability solutions for different networks. Lots to talk about, guys. It's not a very simple answer. Again, my overall decision here was the fact that Hedera does win. Now, guys, look, thank you so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate every single one of you that stopped by. If you have liked my video, please hit it down below. And if you find my content valuable, subscribe for more, because I bring you guys content every single day, and these videos take a long time to create. Now, on your left, you'll see the crypto altcoin tier list I recently made. There will be one of those every single month. And on your right, 5 altcoins currently under $1 for 2025. Again, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you, and take good care. Okay.